in 2016, so 10 years ago, my life completely unraveled and fell apart. I was in a very dark place, and I literally lost everything in my life. And, I told people for years, that all you need is Jesus. But when he was literally all I had, I understood that in a deeper level. And so my focus with this book is just to really encourage other believers, but to also hopefully speak truth into the life of somebody who maybe they don't have a Bible, or maybe they're afraid to go to church or got hurt by the church, just to really infuse hope.
Give us some background on you and where you are in a little synopsis.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I'm a native Virginian. And some folks don't quite consider that the South, but I very much grew up in the South. I grew up with a strong Virginia father and a highly influential grandmother in my life who really taught me everything about being Southern. I was one of those kids that had a little thing in their room when they were growing up that says American by birth, Southern by the grace of God. You've seen those? Oh, yes. Yeah, that was very much me. I grew up with Virginia history. My ancestors date back to the Jamestown settlement. So I've got deep roots in the South and deep roots in those early colonies. I've been in ministry for many years and was a newspaper columnist for a while, working for a small town newspaper in Western North Carolina. And that kind of helped me hone my chops and understand a little bit better how to tell a story really well with a Southern spin to it. While I was working for that paper, a writer wrote into the editor and he said, that woman needs to write for Southern Living or Women's Day. I think he meant it as like a slight, but I took it as a compliment.
There you go.
So I thought, well, if they think that. And so I wrote my first novel in 2021 and never thought I'd write a devotional. Just really, I'm much more comfortable with fiction than with putting myself out there like this. But I started writing some posts on my social media pages, and they started garnering some engagement. And so I sent them to my parents, and they read them over, and they said, these are pretty good. Why don't you send them to your agent? And I said, okay. I had 10, like a big 10 devotions I wrote. Ooh, and she said, I like these, and I need to write 80 more. And I was like, how do you come up with 80 Southern sayings and 90 Southern sayings total? So started kind of down that trail. But generally speaking, Jane knows a little bit of my story. That's really my passion, is sharing that deep hope found in Christ with my readers, whether it's fiction or, in this case, nonfiction.
So what you did then is you took Southern sayings.
Yes.
And you built devotions around those to create the devotional.
Yes.
So what was one of your favorite Southern sayings?
Oh, goodness. Well, bless your heart. It's of course one. But I think what I did was what kind of surprised me was really delving into some of these that, lie down with dogs, you wake up with fleas, and really kind of getting into the history of that and realizing that's actually traceable back to England and a little writer named Geoffrey Chaucer who wrote a book we probably all read in high school, The Canterbury Tales.
Yes,
he said something to that effect back then. And I think realizing that so many of these Southern sayings have their ties back to Scottish and British roots. And I think that's because so many of our ancestors, they came here from England and Scotland. So it makes sense. One of my favorite sayings, though, is Lord willing and the creek don't rise. I grew up with that. My daddy said it all the time, still says it. And over the years, as I've lived in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, I've heard different people say what the background to that saying is. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, that refers to the Muskogee Creek Nation. And I said, okay, well, maybe it does. But digging a little bit deeper, that doesn't refer to the Muskogee Creeks. That phrase was first coined by a Methodist preacher, I believe in 1834. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about how folks couldn't get away from their homesteads or their homes because the creeks were so swollen. So it was an informative process for me as well. Not just to try and dig and find some of these sayings, but to find some of my favorites and get the history behind them.
Well, my mother, we always talk about our mothers because that that is definitely the voice that raised the South, right? I mean, let's just
Yeah.
talk about it. Strong Southern women. That's what we come from. And
Right.
if it wasn't your mother, it was your grandmother. And if it wasn't on the paternal side, it was on the maternal side. Somebody along the way was a strong Southern woman. But my mother used to always say, "You're as ill as a snake." You know, she would say, "You're as ill as a snake." And her thing for me was, I hate hot weather and I love cold weather and I hate being hot. And here I am in Florida. But she would say, when you're hot, you're as ill as a snake and you're always hot. So,
Yeah. Mama would say, "I'm going to knock you in the head."
yeah.
Oh, gracious.
Oh, no, I'm just going to knock you in the head. And people go, "Ooh," like that. But but what is interesting too, Dawn, and we've talked so much about this, you have, it was so funny when you called me and said, "I got a contract on a devotion." And you said, I don't know about this. So tell me the desire of your heart, though, where your heart is.
Yeah, I mean, my heart is to encourage women. Look, God is a God of hope. He's a God of restoration and redemption. And I hope that comes through in these devotions. It's also a nod to my Southern heritage that I'm very proud of. You know, you talk about strong Southern women. I wrote a devotion about being dirt poor. My great grandparents were poor dirt farmers on my father's side. And that woman, they had nothing. I mean, my great grandmother was orphaned by both parents at the age of 6, passed around, handed from family member to family member. She didn't learn to read till she was 13. And my great granddaddy taught her how to read by reading the Bible. So I want to share those things because I think it's important that we preserve our history and that generational, it's a different type of generational wealth, isn't it? Because it's story and it's important and it matters. But overall, just really sharing hope. You know, I opened the book, you know, just saying, you know, the reason that I'm writing this is because I went through a very difficult time. I know what it's like to be hopeless. I know what it's like to hit rock bottom and feel like there's a rain cloud following you around. And I like alliteration. So that's how I came up with the name Southern Sunshine, you know, because it's about that. And
Yeah.
But you've also talked to me about some projects you're working on that really you love. So I know we're talking about Southern Sunshine, but tell me about the next one that you are praying happens, because I think it's so interesting.
Well, I've got a couple in the hopper. I think you're talking about the historical fiction that I'm working on, set in Savannah or set outside of Savannah in 1850. So that's a challenge, lots of research, but I'm a history nerd, so I love it. I also recently finished a children's book that I co-wrote with he turns 26 today, my son. And that's also set in the South, set in Georgia. And I'm hoping that the Lord opens the doors for that one to find a publishing home. That would just be extremely sweet since I co-wrote it with him. And the Lord has done so much to bring healing and restoration to my relationship with my family. And I'm just so tickled pink that I was able to do that.
But it's a beautiful story.
I grew up right outside of Savannah, so I know about all that area. I don't know about the 1800s.
They fascinate me because y'all do all this research, and I declare I just didn't do anything. I just wrote things.
Yeah. Well, so Dawn, when does your book come out?
April 28th.
Okay.
So just a short time away.
It is. I'm sure it's up for pre-order now at Amazon and other online outlets. So everybody go to Amazon and other online outlets like Walmart.com and BarnesandNoble.com, Target.com, all of those wonderful places, BooksAMillion.com. We have a long list of them. And look up Dawn Wallis's new devotional titled Southern Sunshine. Go ahead and pre-order it because you'll get it at a discount. See, once it releases, the price goes up. But right now, you're guaranteed that lower price. So let's spread some Southern sunshine along the way. Buy one for yourself, for your mama, for your grandmama, for your friends. It's going to be a great gift idea.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you so much. Thank y'all for having me.
This is so cool.
Yes. And be sure to visit Dawn at her website. I believe it's dawnwallis.com. Correct?
Yep. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining.